What's going on, people? So, today, this morning, got some weird news. Nothing tragic necessarily or whatever, but I guess it could be later on. We'll see. But Mark Hoppus, some of you guys might know him, is the bassist from Blink 182. Yeah, apparently he has cancer now. So that's weird, you know? So I was thinking about that earlier today. And I didn't really have any like Blink 182 shirts to wear for this video other than this particular one because they did headline one of the nights of Reading Festival back in 2014. So I figured, you know what? I'll pull that out for today. It also kind of goes along with this since it's an England thing, right? But yeah, man, I saw that like first thing in the morning. I said, man, that's like weird. You know what I'm saying? It sucks a lot too, but just didn't really see that one coming. You know, I mean, obviously he probably didn't either. But yeah, so best of luck to him with all that. So I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say about it, but I figured I'd throw it out there because why not? It also made me go back and re-edit a portion of a video that I posted sometime today. Actually, it's not live yet, so forget I said that. But either way, here we are to talk about these right here. So I picked these up from a raffle thanks to Wellgosh. Initially, like I'd won the raffle like, I don't know, it's probably around the 20th or so of last month. And they were kind of just not really shipping things out super fast, which was weird, you know? Because even my Huaraches, which were the bright mangoes, even those had taken a while to come out, you know? So I figured I'll give them some time and then I'll email them or something. So I emailed them like a couple days ago and I'm like, hey, so what's going on with this? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll get those right over to you. And like a couple days later, here they are. So yeah, so that was cool, you know, because I'd been charged for them like forever ago. And somebody who had commented on one of my videos of something, I think it was Glua14, I don't know if I'm saying that right. But yeah, he's like, yeah, blah, 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 London, blah, blah, Huarache. And I'm like, I mean, if I get them, cool. Because I had won the raffle at that point, but it'd been a while, so I was like, this might not happen. Because sometimes that happens. Oh, side of the box for you guys before I go getting further along. So there's that. Every so often people like to hear about or see about that kind of thing. But yeah, I didn't get into it with them because I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to get these or not. But now here we are. Now I get to do a review. So I guess that's kind of cool. Go ahead and open these things up, see what we're looking at. It's a little bit of a blemish right off the top on the side of there. So, you know, it is what it is. I think the last pair of shoes I opened up had a blemish on them as well. What was that? Some blue and white Yeezys. I don't know if you saw that review, man, like, it was somewhat of a disappointing review, you know what I mean? Because it's like, you get something, you're kind of looking forward to it, and then it kind of sucks, and you're like, well, alright. I mean, because at that point, like, what can you do, right? I mean, I guess you could return them maybe sometimes, but whatever. So these are, wow, these feel very different than I expected. So that's, I don't know if that's good or bad. We'll talk it over and see what we see. But first off, what is this called on the side? This is black and white. But a lot of people know it's the London colorway, right? Because it's got that stuff on there. So let's go ahead and give a little review, a little breakdown of this right here. The Nike Air Huarache in the London colorway, or black and white. Yeah, so there's that. I'm going to start with the bottom. Down there, what you're looking at is pretty much a standard outsole style, if you will, but you got a bit of a translucent kind of front, well, the whole thing is translucent, but in the front area, you do have you hugged your foot today? So it's kind of the same sort of, I don't know, slogan that I want to say used to use with the Presto as well. So you got that, otherwise it's kind of like a blackish sort of thing. And then down there in the middle, you got the Nike Air, as you generally do. So overall, it's a pretty cool look, at least in my opinion. But it's on the bottom of the shoe, so how much are you really going to see it? Not a lot, unfortunately. So let's just move on to this here midsole, right? So the midsole, as you've come to expect from the Huarache, is going to be just your standard, very chunky sort of thing. Kind of reminds me like the React type shoes and stuff like that. It's also comfortable like the React shoes and stuff like that. So there's that for you. Switching around over to the back, you do have Air kind of imprinted into the side of it, so that's pretty nice. And above that, you do have Nike on the back tab, so you know, Nike Air, right? Kind of makes sense. But anyway, so coming back around here to the siding and all that stuff, giving you this overall look at the whole shoe, right? So you can kind of see what we're gonna get into in a second here. I just like to give people a little overview shot sometimes, when I remember. But anyways, let's jump down in here and start knocking this thing out so we can move on. Around the toe box, right, you've got some very, very nice feeling leather, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say it's like super high quality because I don't know what quality leather is, but it feels really good. So there's that. It feels like thick, you can see those wrinkles on there, you can feel it. I imagine this is what like an elephant might feel like, but probably softer because elephants look like they'd be like very rough. Anyways, above that, you've got this very soft mesh sort of thing going on as well. So far the materials on this thing are pretty solid, very top notch, right? So you got that going on, very soft to the touch as I was saying. And just above that, you do have some of that nylon that you're gonna see throughout a lot of the upper of the shoe, at least under the leather anyway. And obviously all of this is in black minus the leather, which is in like a lighter-ish black, almost like a darkish gray, right? So speaking of which, moving on to this here middle-ish area, right? So this is made up of a lot of that leather piece, right? So it's kind of down here, loops up all around. And as I've said in the past, I'll say it again, this is like a separate layer altogether here. So when you look on the inside, you can see that nylon I was talking about split away from the leather. But moving back down to here, what we're talking about, right? So in that middle-ish area where you do have kind of a hole there, you see a lot more of that nylon peeking through. So it's all going to be feeling very soft, even though it does look a little bit different, like between the upper and the lower piece. It still feels very much the same. So there's that for you. And then above that, you do have a little bit of some extra holes for whatever reason down here by the lacing. So I guess if you want to switch up how you lace your shoes, you can. I don't because I'm lazy. I just leave them how they are. Moving further back to the back third of this shoe, if you want to call it that, you got this big plastic piece here. And that, as I was kind of saying before, it's in black and it just kind of loops all the way back around. The only slight difference is that on the back where that Nike is, it's more of like that lighter translucent style, kind of like what you saw on the outsole, just up here on the back. And like I was saying, that does say Nike on it. And behind that, while we're back there, you do have that nylon piece up at the top. And then the lower piece is a little more elastic-ish, though not as stretchy as, what was the last one I did? The Bright Mangoes, right? That kind of varies, but it's always pretty stretchy, just some are more so than others. But anyway, so moving back along here, that's mostly the outside of the shoe because there's not a whole lot to say, right? So we're going to switch back over to the front and finish off the outside with the laces. So these laces, I'll have to figure it out later. They might be 3M, they might not be. Either way, they're very much just your plain black laces. And I say they might be 3M because they have those little lines in them, and sometimes that's what that is. But looking closely at them, it looks like they're probably just lines on there. Like I said, you'll have figured it out by now because there will have been a picture if there's a need for a picture. But so you got those, right? And then behind that, it's nothing fancy. It's just going to be more of that nylon sock liner thing going on here. And then at the very top of the lacing area, at the top of the tongue, if you want to call it a tongue, what you have there is just a little tab that says Nike Air Huarache, right? So it's kind of just stitched on there. And then we're going to move on into the inside because that's the last thing we really talk about here. Take that out. So down there on the inside, make sure I hold this up correctly. You have that Nike Air, or that Nike International shield thing that you've seen on a lot of other Huaraches lately, or at least I have. And if you watch my videos, I guess you've seen it too. So you got that going on in there. Otherwise, it's pretty much just blacked out. And while we're talking about it, this whole sock liner in here, it is very soft to the touch. So I do like that. These things are going to be very comfortable when I put them on because Huaraches always are. But we'll get more into that in a second, right? So, real quick here, I believe we've covered everything there is to talk about as far as the shoe and whatnot. So I'll hit you with some personal thoughts and then we'll roll into like the sizing stuff, right? So these right here, they did cost me a little bit more than well actually, you know what, they may not have because they ended up not charging me for shipping on account of them forgetting to send them out on time. but they were still a little higher than the average price from what I recall. But looking at what I got in hand for that price, I honestly can't complain, right? Because they look pretty nice, and I'm not even a fan of all black shoes or all any colored shoes. So despite that, they still look really good. The material is crazy on here. And it's a Huarache, which I'm a fan of. So there's 3 solid reasons, right? Good lists come in threes or something like that. So there you go. But that being that, I am pretty glad to have them in hand. So, and since I didn't think that would work out on account of them being a somewhat limited-ish release, that sweetens the deal just a little bit. That's that cherry on top, I suppose. I don't even like cherries. Either way, let's go ahead and knock out this sizing stuff, right? So, I bought these in a 9.5, right? Because that's the size that works for me. It's my true to size, and I pretty much buy that on all shoes for the most part. Now, I buy that on these, in these, whatever, and I know that these are a snug fit as far as most people will say. Some people say they're a little too snug, right? And they like to go up half in all the Huaraches, but I don't feel that way. I think the snug fit is not too snug, right? However, if you have like one of those wide feet or whatever, you might want to consider going up a half. And I guess if you just don't like a snug fit, then you might want to consider it in that case too. But for me, things work out just fine at this 9.5 at the true to size. So I'm just going to keep riding that out, right? Now, past that, right? Past figuring out which size you want to buy for your feet and how you like your shoes to fit. The comfort is the other thing that matters. And the comfort in these, now I don't want to oversell it like it's super amazingly fantastic, but it definitely passes the all-day wear test. And that is a huge piece in my book as far as like what makes me buy something, right? So given that these have that nice cushiony midsole here, which you saw and you're probably seeing right now, it really gives you the comfort you're going to want throughout the day. And then when you have an upper like this, the upper of the Huaraches does vary because some have better quality than others. And the higher the quality, the better they are. And even the ones that are kind of low on the totem pole are still going to be solid, right? So something like this, you can expect better. Something that you just find randomly off the shelf at like your local Champs or something, it's still going to be good, but it's not going to be as good. But long story short, you can't go wrong with the Huarache as far as comfort goes. And they got that extra breathability in there for the most part as well. Even though you have that leather, a lot of the rest of the sock liner and stuff, it's made of some pretty good material, so you're not going to be all super hot, which is a thing that you do not want in the summer because depending on where you live, the summer's already hot enough on its own without any extra assistance. And that being that, I think we're good on the sizing and the comfort and all that stuff. So we're just going to go ahead and wrap things up. And now I gave you my personal thoughts, went over sizing, did the breakdown, all that good stuff. So now it's time for me to wrap this thing up, this whole thing up. And I got it on feet and do some editing. I tell you, man, like I take a lot of breaks away from this YouTube thing because it gets boring in some ways, right? Or at least repetitive. And then when I get back into it, it's like no days off for like, a while. So that's what I've been doing lately is actually editing all the videos that I have been recording. So I got, 5 ready to go out, I think. Maybe 6, I don't know. 7 potentially if I had miscounted and added this in. Either way, it's been busy over here, so expect to see a lot of crap. In some cases, it is actually crap. Talking about those Yeezys over there. From me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'll see you eventually, or you'll see me eventually, however you want to look at it. Later, people.